Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Tarrant County Five Stones Task Force. We've got a full room today, and welcome to everybody who's on our online audience as well. We're going to jump right into things. We'll start by first saying thank you to Catering to Love for providing the food today. And now we're going to hear from our spotlight agency, Phoenix.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kendall Reed, and I am the founder and executive director at Phoenix. And we are a nonprofit organization that provides advocacy for women who've experienced sexual assault and sexual abuse. We work primarily right here in Fort Worth, Texas. And one of the reasons that we started is too many times we kept hearing, I don't know how to get resources. I've experienced sexual abuse or I have experienced sexual assault, but I don't know where to go for help. I don't know what steps to take. The resources out there are confusing or hard to navigate. And I'm just trying to deal with what happened. And so we wanted to step into that and provide a resource that allowed someone to come to us no matter where they are in their healing journey, if they're at the beginning, in the middle, or close to the end. And we get to inform them of their resources, both locally and at a college or a church or something like that. And we get to walk them through that process for as long as they need. We call it, we want to find what gaps they have in their support system and help fill those so that they can move forward and heal and rise. So we work in two primary areas. One of those is with college students. So we work a lot here with TCU and just helping students navigate the many resources. College students have access to so many resources, which is incredible, but they're really, really hard to navigate. And so imagine, we use this analogy a lot to explain what we do. And imagine showing up to college on the first day and you haven't been told your class schedule, where your classes are, you haven't been told where your dorm is. And when you show up, they say, good luck finding it. And that's what it is for someone who's experienced sexual assault when they're trying to find resources. And so we step in to provide all the next steps so that they can heal to the best of their ability. We've seen amazing, amazing healing and just transformation. It's my favorite part of my job. I've sat with someone before for 6 months. She couldn't even make eye contact and she was shaking. And then we went and got coffee 6 months later and she started laughing and smiling and telling me stories from her life. And it's just incredible to get to walk with people and watch that healing throughout their lives. Another aspect that we do is community outreach. We want a well-informed community. We want a community that's safe for people to come forward no matter their experience. And so we do trainings. We come into churches, businesses, you name it, we'll come and train. And we want informed jurors that will be sitting on the cases that are deciding verdicts. We want informed teachers. We want informed ministers. We want informed business people that no matter what someone's experienced, they can respond in a trauma-informed way, that people know that they are believed, that they are supported, and they are empowered. So if you're interested in that training, and we would love to talk to you. And if you have any questions about what we do, I'll be out front at the table, and we'd love to talk to you. Thank you.
Yes, be sure our spotlight agency is always out in the hallway as you come in and they're out there as you leave. So feel free to take a few moments and talk to them one-on-one if you'd like. We are collecting gift cards for survivors, $25 gift cards. This is something that we do every fall. We try to collect these cards so that at the beginning of December, we can give them to the agencies that have direct contact with victims. And this is like a little Christmas gift so that they can take care of themselves and their families. We are collecting them. It goes, you use my email to send an e-gift card. I did get a message saying that for some reason my email was not working for one person. If you come across that, get in contact with me and I'll give you a different email to use. For all those that are new to Five Stones, if you don't mind just taking just a couple of minutes, use your phone to scan this QR code and you'll pull up a short little form. It helps us know who's in the room and get you on our email list so that you'll have meeting reminders in the future. So next month, we are normally the last Tuesday of every month. However, because Thanksgiving was so close to the Tuesday, we bumped it up a week. So next month, we're meeting on the 19th. So be sure to change that on your calendars. Let everybody you know, just so we can get the word out that we're meeting on the 19th. And you won't want to miss it. It's going to be a great meeting. We will be giving out our awards that meeting. So it should be pretty exciting. Do we have any other agency announcements today?
First, let's cheer for the Amazon gift cards for survivors. I just want to let you know that Unbound has 3 open positions for advocates that we're taking applications for right now. And there's a position on the underground staff opening up in December, and we're also taking applications for that. Those can be found at unboundnow.org under Serve and Careers. Thank you.
Oh my God, is that the new puppy?
Yeah,
Talk about the puppy.
it's Theo is Wilbur with the new hairdo. This is Theo, and he's been with us since the 12th, and he's actual service dog, certified service dog for anxiety, and he's just been tremendous since we've had him. He has great instincts, and we're thankful to have him. And let me thank our rescue for making it possible.
I'm Ellie with Rescue Her. I spoke last month. I shared some wins about how we had 2 traffickers this year convicted to life sentences. I actually wanted to just make a correction on that. We had 1 trafficker convicted for a life sentence and the other was 33 years. So just wanted to share that correction. Still an amazing win.
Yes, it is. Yes, of course.
Hey guys, how's Mama's Pizza? All right, real quick. Thank y'all for who all came out and helped us bless the foster families over at Christ Haven. That was just horrendous, and we had hundreds of kids everywhere, and the laughs, smiles, everything you can hope for in a fall festival. I invite you to join us in delivering a meal, no cost to you other than your time, to a foster family in the DFW area. We adopt a couple hundred families every year. Sadly, I normally go without volunteers for about 50, so they just don't get helped. So I'm looking for folks willing to just spend any time during the week prior to or including Thanksgiving to get with that foster family and deliver a meal. Very simple. Got the QR code here if you're interested in doing that. Thank you, guys. Be blessed.
Thank you. All right. We will go ahead and move into our law enforcement updates, and we'll start with Fort Worth PD and Detective Orand.
Good morning. So we had 4 cases for the month of October. I know it's not over yet. We still have a few more days. So, but all of our cases this month were all involving juveniles. We didn't have adult cases, anything that came through as far as an adult. And out of the 4 cases, 3 of them were actually where the suspect has been encouraging the juveniles to sell their photos or videos, and per their instructions, to make lots of money. So currently those are all under investigation, but that's what we had this month. What I would like to touch on is really just the importance of our advocate groups, anyone that comes in contact with any of our victims, especially when they're in the hospital, not to question them. We have a situation right now where we have a case where a victim was assaulted, she's injured, and when we got her in for the forensic interview, She didn't want to talk. She said she was tired of answering questions. She's already answered these questions. She didn't want to talk to us anymore. And then come to find out, one of the groups that was with her apparently were in the hospital with her regularly, asking her a lot of questions. And so now we don't have information in order to try to move forward with this case, because now she's refusing to answer questions. So just as a reminder, just be careful what we ask our victims. The second thing I'd like to discuss, which, so we had a female that was arrested for prostitution. After she was arrested, her pimp called back our undercover officer and he texted him first and said, make sure my bitch make it back here, because she had already been gone for too long. He then called our undercover officer and told him that he was her pimp. She was his hoe. She needed to come back. Where was she? So we went and talked to the victim in jail. We did go talk to her. And I know we've discussed trauma bonds before, but she was truly bonded to this person. He beat her up a few months ago so bad where he busted out all of her front teeth. We talked to her for quite a while, just letting her talk, trying to get some information that she would give us the information that we need. She never, ever admitted that she was a victim, that she was doing this of her own free will. He wasn't making her. He wasn't getting any benefit from her doing this. And when I say it was very painful. It was very, it was very painful to see this beautiful, beautiful young lady smiles and just great attitude. I mean, just very happy, it was very hard to try to just, wanting her to just come forward and, but she didn't, but she has our information and I'm sure we will run into her again. And, but when we speak about trauma bonds, those bonds are so tight. And like we've mentioned before, we have to come in contact with some of our victims multiple times before they're going to trust us, before they're going to give us information that we need. And this was truly the first time. We've seen it before, but for me, this was truly the first time that it actually was, it was truly that trauma bond that she has formed with this person who she's been with probably about 8 months. So I just wanted to just kind of remind not only y'all, but me as well, that, they're out there and sometimes it's really difficult for us to have someone be a victim when they just don't feel like that's what they are. So thank you.
So sometimes the stories aren't always uplifting, but this is a good insight into the challenges that law enforcement can face. We'll go ahead and have Tarrant County Sheriff's Office come down and we'll hear from Investigator Thompson.
Good morning. Appreciate the privilege to come tell you what we've been up to for the month of October. Earlier in the month, we assisted North Richland Hills PD with the recovery of a missing person. So North Richland Hills believed that the person missing was being trafficked. We set up a small outreach close to our office, and the missing person, we contacted her through her friend, through Mega Personals. 3 girls arrived at the location. We talked to them all extensively. They all denied being forced to do anything against their will and ultimately refused services from any of our advocacy partners. Our unit also assisted Forney PD and DPS with a demand suppression operation. There were 10 arrested, and one was on felony probation, and he showed up with an ankle monitor. A search warrant was conducted on his phone. Other females were located, and Forney PD and TCSO are currently working on identifying the females. Just a couple of weeks ago, or last week actually, we assisted the jail with a 15-year-old female reported missing out of Weatherford PD. The child was arrested by Fort PD for unrelated charges. She gave a false name and a false date of birth, so she was in jail for a couple of days. When they transported her to our jail, her identity was learned. She was immediately transported to juvenile detention, and she continued to give a false name in DOB. Fort Worth HTU reached out to us. They went out the following day, but I believe she wasn't cooperative with them either. So that's ongoing. Last week, we were notified by the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office that a jail inmate was electronically communicating with a 15-year-old who lives in Dallas. The messages were graphic. The inmate was blocked from communicating with her anymore, and we filed charges for OSM on the inmate. Dallas PD was contacted and advised about the electronic communications, which alluded to a previous sexual relationship with the 14-year-old and the 24-year-old inmate. And an investigation is being launched by Dallas PD to pursue charges related to that. Thank you.
All right. Super excited to introduce two amazing speakers today. First, Susan Peters, founder and chief advisor of Unbound Now, launched a global anti-human trafficking organization in 2012. Unbound Now began in Waco, Texas, and has expanded across the United States and internationally. In her current role, Susan sits with the executive team providing strategic guidance to ensure the organization's ongoing vision, legacy, and growth. She plays a key role in external representation and developing support in the new service regions. In 2014, Susan co-founded the Heart of Texas Human Trafficking Coalition alongside local leaders to further unify efforts against trafficking in the region. She installed new leaders in January 2024 as she moved to Fort Worth, Texas. Susan holds a bachelor's in communications from Baylor University and a master's in global leadership from Fuller Theological Seminary. Her travels abroad opened her eyes to the global human trafficking crisis, igniting her passion for fighting this injustice both in the U.S. and around the world. Throughout her career, she has trained thousands of professionals and community members at conferences and events, supported countless survivors and their families, and facilitated the launch of new Unbound locations globally. Susan has also served as an adjunct professor at Baylor University, teaching leadership, and has been honored with numerous awards for her contributions to the anti-trafficking movement. She resides in Fort Worth, Texas with her husband of 35 years, Marty. They have 4 adult daughters, 3 sons-in-laws, and 2 grandchildren. We also have Allison Byrd. She serves as Unbound Now's Director of Government and International Relations after volunteering for many years at the North Texas Indonesia offices. From 2022 to 2023, she oversaw Unbound Now's response to the Ukrainian refugee crisis and delivered a TED Talk about the human trafficking cases there. Prior to working for Unbound Now, Allison interned at the White House in Washington, D.C. in the Office of Economic Initiatives, which oversaw the White House Human Trafficking Summit, the rollout of related executive actions, and the annual meeting of the President's Interagency Task Force to monitor and combat human trafficking. Allison graduated from Georgetown University with a bachelor's in international affairs and a JD from the Texas A&M University School of Law. May I introduce Susan and Allison?
Morning, everybody. Thanks so much for having us. We're really glad to be here. Before we get started, I really want to thank Felicia and the steering committee what we have here in Fort Worth and in Tarrant County is really special. And not every community has this. And because of Felicia's leadership and the task force, Fort Worth is not where we were 10 years ago. We've gotten to see incredible victories together. As we know, and as we've heard, there are many more victories to come, much more progress to be made, but we do that by linking arms and the great work that's happening here with all of the agencies represented. We're going to be sharing a little bit about the idea of scaling. We do that with fear and trembling. With growth comes many challenges, but also is well worth it. It's a risk worth taking. I'm so excited for you to get to know Susan, our founder, our fearless leader. I think the Fort Worth Star-Telegram described her as the woman who would not take no for an answer. She has busted down quite a few doors, and that's led to pretty transformational experiences for thousands of people. So with that, I'll hand it over to Susan.
Thank you. Awesome. It's such an honor to be here. And I know we've already said it, but you guys are my heroes. I mean, this is where people are showing up saying this is an important issue. And when we work together, we can really make an impact in our community and protect the most vulnerable. And so thank you for all the ways that each one of you serve. And we are honored to be a part of this group. Absolutely. I'll share a little bit. Theo, he's saying yes, amen. I'll share a little bit about how we started and about kind of the scope of our work and what our aspirations are. A number of years ago, I was on staff at a church, and part of my job was to travel internationally and to go visit the missionaries. And it didn't matter what country I went to, I came face to face with human trafficking victims. Every country has laws against trafficking, but every country has it. So literally, I remember going to Uganda and hearing about the child soldiers that were just little boys in their villages, but they were taken by the LRA or the Lord's Resistant Army and forced to be child soldiers, and just horrific atrocities. And then yet when we met them, they were just little boys. You know, this was not what they wanted for their lives. And they were in desperate need of resources, of love, of the counseling and support to get their life back. And many of them got their life back. And it all over the world, whether it was the Dominican Republic, India, Cambodia, Thailand, it didn't matter. Everywhere had human trafficking. So finally in 2012, which I can't believe is almost 13 years ago, I came home and told my church leadership that I quit, that someone else could do the jobs that I was doing, but that I had to try to do something to identify trafficking victims, to help with partners for identification, recovery, and to walk alongside to help them get their life back. And that's what we did. We set out to do, and we started Unbound Now with just a group of friends that were praying, saying, how can we show up? How can we learn what will happen? And anybody in this room can say, we are learning all the time. Sometimes it's a little embarrassing when you go back and see where we started from, but we had to start somewhere. But as we do the research, as we learn, as we hear from our survivor leaders, we are growing and learning and become so much more impactful. And that's exciting to be a part of. So you may be familiar with Unbound Now service region here in Texas. You have it? Okay. We serve 45 counties in Texas, and we are so thankful for the Texas Governor's Office Child Sex Trafficking team. And they have been incredibly impactful of really looking at the landscape across Texas, really helping with the research-based best practices and supporting and even financially supporting us. And so they have charged us with providing 24/7, 365 days a year advocacy services, which is that emergency response when victims are identified and when we can partner with some of you and be of assistance to be there for that survivor, and then do ongoing case management. I want to say, and thank you for sharing today, that this task force and ones like it are so important, because as we meet and continue to build relationships, you have those transparent conversations like, hey, advocacy groups, we really need you, but don't do this. This isn't helpful. And I appreciate you saying that today, because that's what we need. Lindsay saying, yes, amen. You know, Traffic 911 is one of our best partners and we love you guys, but those are those conversations that just make us better. I can get a little emotional about saying that, but that's what makes the difference. When we build trust, when we have those relationships, when we say, hey, here's best practices, we've learned better. Hey, this is actually hindering our investigation. Let's get in the room and talk about it. And so I appreciate you bringing that up today. And we want to have those conversations, and it helps us serve those in our community better. And so this crisis response and ongoing case management is really the bread and potatoes of what we do. And I'm so proud of our teams for being able to do that. In some communities like Tarrant County, McLennan County, Brazos Valley, there's lots of areas that do have robust coalitions and task forces like this that are really working together, and they're really strong. And then I think we have a picture here. This is a new one in East Texas where the partners are coming together. They're copying what we're doing and asking questions on how they can build those wraparound services, and we can see what resources are available for the survivors, who does what, and really get organized so that we can not compete with each other, but we complement each other. And that's in the best service of the victims. And that's our goal. And so super excited about what's happening in East Texas. And that's important. But there are other areas that are brand new, just starting to have the conversations. And we have so much to learn and to grow and to do that. A couple of years ago, the state of Louisiana's legislature passed law, thank goodness, to deal with their child sex trafficking issues in Louisiana. They really had not done that up until like 2 years ago. And they called Unbound Now and said, you guys do great work in Texas. The Texas governor's office recommends you. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Can you come to Louisiana and help us with our child sex trafficking victims? Which of course we want to do. But like a lot of us, we find ourselves very budget bound. And that's basically what I told him is we care deeply. We would really like to help, but we don't have the funds right now to open offices that you would need. And they said, give us your budget. And our incredibly smart COO, Stephanie Byrd, did her magic. And we put a budget together to open an office in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and that the DCFS funding is able to provide for that. And we are so honored to be able to be there. But they need our help too. So stay tuned when we need to pull in some of you guys, because they're just really starting to build out all their processes, and they're looking to Texas to model what we're doing here, to work collaboratively to really make an impact. But to show you the significance, just in 2024, our teams, brand new. So think about it. They don't have task forces formed. They don't have the referral services. They don't have, I mean, we call the phone, right? We call each other saying, can you take this one? Do you have this? I mean, that's what helps these survivors. Those are just being built out, but we have already had 200 referrals, and this is 17-year-olds and younger. So between those two teams, they are serving all of those kids. They are the youngest victims that our agency has been referred, and I would say some of the most brutal, although every case is brutal, right? But it's really incredible what's happening there. But I'm really proud of the team and what they're doing. The same thing, they do that emergency response. And I mean, with that many calls this year, it's busy. I had an 1.5-hour meeting with some people in the office there so they could get to know the team. And they had 3 crisis calls while we were meeting that their advocates were being deployed to go meet. So they're really busy. And they are building relationships with the district attorney's office and law enforcement and the service providers so that we can work together and respond in a way that's helpful, and then do that ongoing case management. One of our kids was put in a safe home and is doing really well. And she called one of our advocates and said, our home is going on a fishing trip. It's on Saturday. Will you come and fish with me? And our advocate said, oh, I am bougie. I love the way she tells it. She's like, I'm bougie. I don't fish. And of course, the child was like, no, please, you got to come. You got to come. It's going to be fun. And she said, so it's my day off and I don't want to, but I'm going to support that kid. I just said, I am not putting a worm on that hook, and I am not taking that fish off that hook. But that's one of my fun pictures of seeing her, that, you know, whatever it takes to show up for these kids, they are resilient. They're getting their life back. I love when our teams send me pictures or they tell me the stories of giving a computer. There was one young man that got a computer because he was going into college. You know, just this week, I met with one of our advocates in one of our cities, and I've been following this kid since he was recovered behind a Walmart emergency shelter, got his apartment back, helped him with his budget. The budget went down, the budget went up. You know how that is with all of our kids, but can you imagine that this kid gets in an apartment, gets in junior college. I mean, we are shouting. This kid is an overcomer, and he just got into one of our best universities. And I was so excited about that. And isn't that awesome? So, and of course, some of the stories are tragic. Some of them, they're not ready to receive our services, but I love being able to tell them there are people like us out there. When you're ready, we are there. And that to me is worth it, no matter what that reaching out is at the time. And so it's absolutely beautiful. And this is what puts fire in our bones to keep figuring it out, keep responding, and keep building it. Each case demands our fullest attention and our most devoted work. And our vision statement has always been communities free of human trafficking. And we've developed these robust programs to ensure that we give our very best and that we collaborate with our community partners. We want to continue to build ecosystems that support survivors and see them get their life back. My hope is that together that we make our communities a safe place for children, a healing place for survivors, and a hostile environment for traffickers. You heard from Sonia, he can wave, last month. We are so proud of her, and she leads our prevention education. And to date, her and our teams have educated and empowered over 11,000 youth on how to stay safe, identify the tactics of a trafficker, and we're so proud of the work her and her teams do. In addition to Sonia, we have Paola. Can you wave? Was she here? She's what? She's in Boston. Is she having a fun day? She got a day off. I hope she's having fun, but we'll give her a shout out anyway. This is an amazing woman, and she coordinates all our professional trainings. That's for dentists and hotels and doctors. And we've educated just in 2024 over 13,000 professionals. And that's so important because we know so many kids go through our medical communities, they're in our hotels, all of that, and they're not identified. So this education is really important. If you or an agency needs that training, you can go on our website, and Paula will reach out with the specific trainings to help you guys out. It's wonderful. And of course, I want to celebrate our advocates, and I know we have some. Can y'all just wave and just show you guys are awesome. I mean, these are the guys. I'll try not to get emotional, but it's a little hard not to, even 13 years later. But these are the guys that show up 24/7. This is not an easy job. They do so much training so that we try to show up doing our very best to de-escalate in really stressful situations, to do best practices, to be able to be there and present with someone at that point of recovery, and then go meet them and do that case management to help them get connected to the resources. They celebrate all kinds of things like getting them in school. I mean, I've got advocates that are waking them up and driving them to make sure they get through school because they want to see them graduate, because we know what a game changer that is. And they go that extra mile. They'll go to their sporting events, support them in court, which is so important, and even give baby showers. I'm surprised at how many are actually even in the delivery room because there is no one else to be with that child when that young person, when they give birth. And I'm so proud of how they go the extra mile, and it's absolutely incredible. And so in 2024, we have served 1,440 clients, and it's absolutely incredible. And so under our survivor services are our advocates, and then we have the Reagan, which is our home for exploited youth ages girls 12 to 17. It's in Waco. And the name the Reagan comes from our main donor. We were trying to think of a name. We didn't want to call it like, Freedom Place or other thing, not to be negative about anybody else's, but sometimes that labels those kids. And we're like, this is a new day for these kids. Let's call it something they could be proud of. And so our main donor's first name, the lady's name was Reagan. And I looked it up, and it means a king's daughter. And I said, let's call it the Reagan. They can be proud of saying, where do you live? I live at the Reagan. And yet it's stamping, I pray, identity on them that they are a king's daughter. And this is a new day for them. And then we also have the Underground, and y'all met Chris. And if you have not done a tour of the Underground, we invite you to do that. We are so thankful for this place. One Safe Place, amazing partner. Y'all know what great work they do, has graciously allowed us to be in the basement, right? Okay. It kind of sounds scary, but it's really cool if you haven't seen it. But we call it the Underground, and it's open 24/7. We have incredible staff there. We have our dog and a soft interview room for all the law enforcement partners, if that would be helpful. But where they can come and get a meal and kind of just get them grounded, and they can sleep, wash their clothes, and then get connected to the resources. And they serve around 400 kids a year. Is that right, Chris? So is that incredible? So we are so thankful. And so if you've not seen it, please come see it. We want it to be a resource for the community. This is for all of us. And when we work together and we share our resources, we can be in the best service of all of those. And so obviously we started, I said I went internationally. I thought we were going to do more international work with Unbound Now when we started. But when we started researching how much was happening in our own cities with trafficking victims, we knew we had to start at home. But our prayer is that we would have a reproducible model that we could take to other cities and other states in our nation as God would provide, and then we could do it internationally. And so there's so much need out there, and Allison's going to come and kind of show where we've gone from here. But thank you so much.
Well, I never want to miss an opportunity to honor Susan. The sacrifices that it takes to build something of this magnitude are beyond what any of us could imagine. And she has paid the price so that many of us can be doing what we're doing. So never want to miss an opportunity to say that. Before I jump to around the world, I will just do a quick plug for the Underground. We host a monthly awareness lunch called a Lunch and Learn at the Underground. And I'll tell you a story of the impact that it had for youth here in Tarrant County. The mayor pro tem of a municipality in the county, I won't say which one, came to the Lunch and Learn, heard about human trafficking, heard about the Underground, went back to the office. And that afternoon, the chief of police walked in her office and said, "Hey, we found a youth who we think is a human trafficking victim. What should we do about this?" And she said, "Well, you'll never guess where I was for lunch today." And one of our advocates got to show up and provide that immediate crisis response there in under 90 minutes, working with the police unit to get that client the care that they needed. All the power of a Lunch and Learn. So if you know someone who needs to be at the next one, November 8th, Susan has the invitations. We'd love to have you because it really can make a big difference in someone getting the trauma-informed care that they need. Around the world, I'll start with a story. I think it could be hard for us to imagine in our daily lives here. What does this even look like around the world? But the neat thing is it often looks a lot like rooms like this. Our office in Mongolia got started much like we did here, having the very first conversations of Human Trafficking 101 with friends, with anyone who would kind of show up. And then we became an implementing partner of the United States Department of State to implement the Child Protection Compact. It's a really big deal that the State Department does this, investing resources, capacity building, training to really jumpstart and fuel. They make a 3 to 4 year investment in a nation of about $5 million and amazing technical support from state to help scale that country's work. And it has been absolutely transformative, and Unbound has been honored to be part of it. I've got a 3-minute video that I think, Wes, are we able to play that? Of oh, here's the team. There they are, just doing what we would do. And this is the video here. If we click on that link, it's going to take you into what this border monitoring looks like. This specific video focuses on our airport checkpoint, but we monitor the Mongolia-Russia and Mongolia-China borders, and the cases have been pretty remarkable. So if we click that blue text, maybe.
In 2022 September, a 17-year-old girl was at the airport and going abroad. We noticed that she was sad and scared. And she was traveling with someone who she said was her brother. And after we asked a few questions, her brother took her away. This was a human trafficking case. Human trafficking is a big problem here, especially in the form of sexual exploitation and forced labor. Many Mongolians are being trafficked within the country and abroad. In recent years, 40% of the identified victims of human trafficking were minors. Our monitoring work is to intercept someone when we believe that they are in the process of being trafficked or at high risk of being trafficked. And it requires us to be alert and have sense of urgency at all times. Within the border monitoring project, we have intercepted 25 victims and high-risk passengers. I always remember the time when the two teenage girls were going to China to work, and it was right before the pandemic. Someone had paid their travel expenses and was waiting for them across the border. So we intercepted and helped them safely return home to Ulaanbaatar city and referred this case to the police. Right after this case, Mongolia closed its borders. We were so glad that we could intercept them right before the pandemic, and they are now safe within the country.
Over the last 10 years, the Unbound Now Mongolia team has educated over 8,000 men, women, and children about the tactics of a trafficker to empower them to be safe. They have trained over 50 churches, and they've run incredible media campaigns that have reached 2.5 million people. They have formed a collaborative approach, working with law enforcement and service providers to do the best service to identify and recover victims. We are so proud of the team here and all that they've accomplished. And we invite you into the next 10 years of what we're doing in Mongolia and what we're doing around the world.
What you'll see in that video, it just takes us into what it looks like. What does it sound like? What does it feel like when you're in these places and screening for those who are literally being taken from their families and sold into the commercial sex industry in countries that are not their own? And our staff are there and interviewing passengers who are at risk, and then getting them connected to long-term care, working with law enforcement, building the cases, all of that, and working to help develop the national task force in Ulaanbaatar. So pretty remarkable there. As Susan mentioned, we had the opportunity to respond in Ukraine and Poland. Many of you know my mom, Stephanie. I'm probably best known here for being her daughter. She's the one who very graciously sent me into the war zone. So we have her to thank for her strong maternal instincts that plunged us into those depths. So no, seriously, her advice to me was, hey, just wear muted colors, kind of blend in. I sent her back some photos in our bright neon vests. They're on with Border Patrol. And so we're doing it, Mom, And so how this got started was we were getting phone calls from people who we knew all over the world after the invasion. I'd spent a fair bit of time in Europe and working with government people. And Susan called and said, hey, can you go to Ukraine like tomorrow? And I said, no, I'm in law school, I have an exam. And she called me the next day and said, so when's your airplane leaving? And I said, oh, she was serious about this one. So we boarded a flight to Warsaw, and actually somebody from Fort Worth PD was on my flight. That was kind of fun. His Polish background. And so we all became good friends, and we were doing a needs assessment of what was going on in the country, who was making a long-term sustainable investment in a systematic approach to human trafficking, and found that there was really nothing like that going on in Poland. We made our way down to the south, to the border with Ukraine, a place called Medyka. And on the Polish side, there was tons of resources. I mean, it was pretty sophisticated, cell phone SIM cards, bus passes, in addition to that kind of first line medical, food, diapers, all that sort of thing. But you cross onto the Ukraine side where all the people actually were waiting, and it was no man's land. I mean, you've got thousands of people lined up to get into the EU, where it takes 24 to 48 hours to make it through that border checkpoint, and no aid workers. And then you've got organized crime running around and things that I thought only existed in movies. I kind of thought, hey, we've debunked the myth that human trafficking is like black leather jackets and white vans. And largely it's not here in Texas. But over there, that's exactly what it looks like. And I was pretty shocked. And I remember this woman coming up to me asking for a diaper for her baby. And I didn't have anything. And I called Susan. I said, we need to get a tailgating tent over here. We need to get some diapers. We need a setup. And so that's what you'll see on the photo behind me. That was our diaper changing tent. But we also set up a station back there where law enforcement and Border Patrol used facial recognition technology to identify known members of organized crime groups and work with the Border Patrol called Stash Granica. It took me about 3 weeks to be able to come close to pronouncing that. And building cases together so that they would be able to screen for trafficking victims there and get them the help that they needed, making those critical interventions. Following up on that, you guys may know Commander Turner came out on a trip with us to Poland. I think I have a picture of that here we are with a judge and an ADA from McLennan County. And that was awesome. We spent about a week training, Commander Turner sharing about how do we do trauma-informed investigations? What's the role of civil society in working with law enforcement, working with legislators to build a system that's going to work and lead to convictions. And I got to go back about 9 months later after that trip, and the guys in the Polish law enforcement were all using code names. They were like, I'm James Bond, he's Tom Cruise. And I was like, okay, Tom, let's work the case, And I finally said, James, you've got to tell me, what is your real name? And he said, my name is Christoph. And I thought, oh my gosh, like his name is like Christ who redeemed us. And he's a part of a redemptive work. And I just shared that with him, and he started crying and shared with me the story of how they were bringing a case to trial. And he said, we would not have done this if you hadn't shown us that it was possible. And that was Commander Turner setting the example there. So what happens here in Texas really is having a tremendous impact around the world. Shortly thereafter, Lindy made it out to Southeast Asia, a true survivor. I spent about 6 months in Indonesia, so I can relate. It is culture shock to the max. Here they are actually in Nepal training a group of judges. And this is pretty critical because when you have people who say, oh, it's just prostitution, people just want it into the life. That's kind of their operating assumption. And then you go, well, they're 10 years old. So let's think about that choice a little bit and having that conversation in a diplomatic way so that the systems are really changed and law enforcement can work for the people and be a trusted system of public justice. So that was a really impactful trip as well. As Susan said, we've had a lot to learn along the way. It wasn't always a smooth ride. I remember being in Poland and I was traveling a lot back and forth. I was trying to finish law school at the same time, gig and mags, and we were given a lot of gifts along the way. And one time somebody gave me these boxes, tons of boxes of whiskey syrup filled chocolates. And I thought, well, that's kind of nice. It's Eastern Europe. It's kind of a cultural gift. It's great. I'll stick it in my suitcase and we'll on to the next city. And so I've got all this chocolate with, liquor in it in my carry-on. And I was going to a meeting in Vienna to meet with the OSCE. They coordinate a lot of the organized crime stuff. And then on from there to France, we were being onboarded to the Interpol Human Trafficking Expert Group. I already felt a little bit intimidated being like 23 years old and going to these meetings. But when I opened up my suitcase and found that this chocolates had burst onto all of my clothes, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the first nonprofit girl to be detained by Interpol for smuggling candy. Like, this is terrible. And so we did the meeting and they let us join the group and all that. So those are some of the moments along the way. But truly, as Susan shared, the numbers from this year, 1,400 clients served through advocacy, through early intervention, through the underground, through the Reagan. We consider it just a great joy to be part of this work with all of you and seeing these stories come to pass and seeing clients go and play D1 softball and experience incredible wins in their own lives as we watch their stories unfold. So with that, I think we have a few extra minutes. If Susan, you want to come and join me up here, we'd be glad to take any questions that you may have. Always faithful with the questions. Yep. Uh-huh.
So what do you do with the lunch and learns that
Yep.
you have?
Mhm.
You have, what do you do? What do you do? You have speakers? You have what?
We feed people who are nice to us first. No, I'm kidding. Everyone gets a good boxed lunch. And we talk about the issue of human trafficking. We help dispel some common misunderstandings about that. And then we take everybody downstairs and they get to see it firsthand and experience the underground. And it's a very moving experience. There's a lot of ways that we can hear about human trafficking in the news or from public sources. But when you walk in and you see it firsthand, And you go, wow, a client was sitting right there this morning having breakfast after what I can only imagine was a really traumatic experience. It changes the game and it helps people see how they can get involved and go, hey, you know what? I'm a teacher. I'm with youth every single day. I can help people get recovered. Or, hey, I'm a medical professional and 88% of human trafficking victims go through a medical office while they're being exploited, which means I have a high probability of being able to identify them sooner. So it's really a point of activation for people from across the industries.
As you scale, you guys grew very quickly, and I know it seems like 13 years, not that long, but you scaled, but it seems like from what we've noticed that you've not lost track of the individual that you're serving. And there's organizations here that may serve 2 or 3 people a month or 6 people a year, and it's so difficult to even serve that few people, but in their side, that's huge. So how, as an organization, have y'all been able to scale and grow, but not lose track of?
That's you.
You know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's such a great question. And the advocates know, I mean, I do the last interviews because I want to say, do you have grit? You know, we've got really great research-based trainings, and we have great software that's really important because we have to document everything because we could be subpoenaed and it's 2 years ago. You know, there's all kinds of really great professional things that we have. And Lindsay could probably answer this too, but we don't want to lose. We got into this to identify, to be there with them, to be present in that trauma, to help them navigate the medical field, the social services, the law, you know, and to be there. And so I think what we try to do is, you know, we have resiliency groups where, you know, we meet with them once a month and try to help them offload the secondary trauma. And then we just try to talk about our values, you know, our core values. And what I like to say, I tried to look at all, you know, not going to a boardroom and say, let's come up with some good values, put it on the wall and hope everybody does it. You know, I'm like, what can capture us that we have been, we want to be, we talk about. So we came up with a hope model. And so it's HOPE. So H is honor everyone. And we want to definitely honor those that we serve. And we honor them by not telling them what to do. We honor them by showing up and being present and helping them determine what they want to do. And we want to honor our partners because we can't do this. No one agency can do this. So we want to honor our partners. We don't want to be those, sometimes you can get a little salty, my friend says, and go, that kid will never make it, or this, you know, we're like, no, we're going to honor them, see them as complete in Jesus. What does God have for them? Let's be people of hope that see the end from the beginning, not in their trauma, but see what they can be. And so be hope oriented. And then that we offer our best every day. We just try to say, come on, show up every day, offer your best every day. And we hold each other accountable. I mean, we do. We try to say that wasn't your best, you know. I mean, believe me, I'll do a training and they'll go, that wasn't very good, you know. I mean, I've had them say that. I'm like, okay, I got to practice more. You know, but we want to offer our best every day, and offering our best is being gritty. It's showing up. It's going the extra mile. And, you know, if you're supposed to leave at 5:30, but you get that hotline call, and we want to show up. We don't want them waiting on us. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. If our law enforcement partners know that we're going to be there, we're going to be there. And we want to hear if we're not, because that's what we want to be, offering our best. Prayerfulness, P, is we can't do this without Jesus. We need God to help us. And we pray as a team. We never enforce that on those that we serve, our partners or anything, but as a culture of staff, man, we pray for each other because this is hard, you know, and so we want to be prayerful. And then E, I say, enjoy your work. And it comes out of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, because there's several promises that say that God says you can enjoy your work. So even though it's hard, I want people to lay their head down at night. And even if it was a really hard situation, we had a horrific situation last year. It was the worst we've ever had. I could cry if I let myself think about it for a second. And our advocates were there. And we got trauma counselors for our team. We did everything that we needed to do. And then I came and I'm just going, I'm so sorry. I would have never wanted you to be in this traumatic situation, as you know, for me. And then they're praying and they're going, God, thank you that we were there. Thank you they weren't alone. And I'm like, you know. So even though it's hard, I hope that we enjoy our work because it matters and these stories matter and these individual matters. So hopefully we're talking about it all the time and we're holding each other accountable. And that was probably way too long, but I'm pretty passionate about it.
Yeah, Susan carries that, more than anybody. I would say on my side of it, I was in London a couple weeks ago and was sitting down with a victim who is my age, and was trafficked by someone whose name we would mostly all know in this room. It was a really high profile case, and we had gotten to know each other at a Bible study, actually. That was how the whole thing came out. And I just remember her sharing the story, sharing what happened, and then what happened after the perpetrator was put in jail. And she said there was nothing. There was no support. There was nothing. No one to help me go to work. No one. I just had to figure it out, make some money, and get my life back at 19 years old. And when I think about, we have so much that's amazing here that can be easy for me to take for granted. And then I step outside of it and I remember what the absence of this looks like. And I'm so motivated. It feels like a moral obligation of we have to scale this and multiply it to other communities so that nobody else has to experience being alone on the other side of trafficking.
The Reagan sounds like an amazing facility. Does Unbound have any plans to put a facility like that closer to?
Stephanie, you want to answer? You can clean this up if I don't answer this right. Shelter is a big problem, but it is, our home, if it can hold 6 girls, we average around 4 because we're not the bottom line authority. They come into our home. It's amazing. The staff's amazing. We partner with the Methodist Children's Home. They're incredible, trauma informed. They have a charter school that our kids go to school. They're playing on the volleyball team. It's awesome. But then a parent may say, oh, good, she's doing good. Let's bring her home. And you're like, no, she's doing good. Don't bring her home, but we don't have that. Or, Child Protective Services want to put her somewhere else. So it's very complicated. It's also very expensive because we need very highly trained staff and it's very expensive. So I would say we haven't cracked the code to do it really well. I mean, I think we're doing it well, but to multiply it, we're not there yet. And then is it, I don't know. Stephanie, anything? Yeah. 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 We're excited to have it. We're proud of it. We're proud of the work they're doing. And we'd love to, in a perfect world, we'd love to multiply it. I mean, New Orleans could use 3 right now. We'd love it, but we need to do it well. And I don't think we're quite ready to scale. And then I need the money. Yeah.
Have you thought about partnering with
Yes.
behavioral facilities?
Yeah.
Offer expanded care.
Yeah.
And then providing
Lots of conversations, lots of research, lots of everything. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, first thing we do when we go in communities is try to build partnerships with the churches. We're in East Texas. Anybody have any churches there? Call me. Because we want prayer, we want support, we want the people there, we want the pipeline of staff. I mean, there's so much that churches can do. What I've told them is even Thanksgiving coming up and Christmas coming up, we're encouraging, a lot of them will do Thanksgiving baskets. And we're like, we can bring that to our families that we serve and say, Unbound Now partnered with, First Baptist Church. We want to bless you. I mean, we want to be the bridge that says, hey, church has got your back. We're not judging you. They're here with us. So those kind of things. In other holidays like Valentine's, things that, church groups can put packages together that are those good gifts or that. We've got go bags where we show up, we've got to have yoga pants and flip-flops and toiletries and things like that in our bags because so many times we show up and need things. I would say y'all have the same thing, right, Lindsay? So that's a great way.
I've got a list of things we need for our upcoming 2 Christmas parties for minors and adult clients. So if you want to come find me after, that'd be really huge. And then the other thing is monthly giving. And so we have churches that do $100 a month and say, hey, we can't write the $100,000 check, but we can be consistent. And that makes a really big difference. So if your church can do $100 a month, it goes a long way to any of the organizations in this room. With that, I think we're coming up closer on time. So I'm going to hand it back to Felicia. Thank you all for having us. It's great to be here.
Your like to volunteer with Chris for the foster family field, where would a person do that?
Just have them contact me and I'll get them connected. Thank you, everybody. Just last minute thoughts. Remember, we're doing the gift card drive. You know, the question about what can churches do? What can individuals do? This is a very practical thing that we can do for survivors. And, you know, they look forward to that in December. And don't forget, next month, we're meeting on the 19th instead of the last Tuesday. And other than that, thank you for coming out and have a great month.